So JJ, you were just talking about when we went off camera there for a second. You were talking about the ISMs.
Yeah. So in high school, I think I still had a snurfer at this point. This girl went to Myrtle Beach and came home. I don't know where she found them, skate shop, surf shop, and came home with 2 or 3 ISMs. It was before Transworld. So so there was like my window into Donner and all the dream, on black and white pages. And I'm sure you were in there. I know a bunch of the OGs were, and it was awesome. That was another game changer. So I still got them. I'll bring them down next time.
For all you kids out there, it's International Snowboard Magazine, the first mag, the last word.
That's right.
That was the tagline.
Yeah.
But actually, even before those glossy covers with the newsprint inside, it was a newspaper.
Oh, really?
And it was called Absolutely Radical. It was the
yeah.
very first issue.
Yeah.
And then there were, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 issues that were still that newspaper style before they went to the smaller magazine.
Yeah. Well, I'm super sentimental about all this stuff, so it hits me right in the feels. Still, to look at those, I'm like, oh wow, this is rad.
Well, I have another guest who is a really good friend of mine. We got to know each other, I want to say it was mid-90s maybe, and we were both reps for Tech 9 at the same time, and that was my first memory of this really great, diverse guy who came from Chicago and moved to Colorado for snowboarding, just like you did, and has had an incredible career in the industry, and a lot of people know him in the industry, but a lot of the public doesn't know him because he's always been behind the scenes, and he's currently the sales manager for Never Summer Snowboards, and he's been doing that for a number of years, but he's got a history with aggression, and I don't even know who else. He's also a deadhead, which is, I mean, when do you get rid of being a deadhead? I stopped doing that in the 80s, man. But let's bring on out Mike Gags Gagliardi.
Hey, Gags.
Hey, dead for life, man.
Dead for life.
Absolutely.
All right, hey.
I wore these glasses for you, Bob.
I appreciate it. That's pretty much how my world looks all the time, I think.
Absolutely. This is how my world looks when I'm at a dead show usually, but that's another story.
Well, I'll admit
Go
it.
back
I
to
mean,
Real Vision.
now that we are in, I guess this era, we're allowed to talk about our previous drug use. I definitely did LSD, just so people know.
That shit was illegal.
Yeah, I think it is still illegal.
I think it is too, actually.
Yeah.
Proud of you, Bob. It's good to be here. Thank you very much for having. I've been enjoying the first couple episodes there, man. It's been cool to watch this thing go down, and this is right by the factory where I kind of came in-house for Never Summer. We were over around the corner, actually, so it's a familiar hood for me a little bit, and cool to be down here, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, I'm really stoked to have you. You were the first guy I called to get on the show, and I finally got you here, so I'm really psyched that you came.
There's nothing I would rather do on a powder day than come down to a snowboard factory and talk with you.
Oh, I'm
Absolutely.
sure. I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Me too.
Yeah.
So, tell me, I actually didn't know your real story about how you got into snowboarding and came to Colorado until we hung out in Jackson a couple of years ago.
Yeah, at Shaper Summit.
Yeah, at the
That was a
Shaper
blast.
Summit, and we both had the floor for a little while, and in the roundtable discussions, and I learned a lot about you. So why don't you tell me a little bit about why you quit your job in Chicago and what that job was, and you know what the epiphany was.
Well, props to Kinger for bringing us up there at the Shaper Summit, man. King Will's, he's the man. But it was, I started snurfing back in the late 70s, and that all started because I was a skateboarder and I was on decks kind of like that old wooden one there.
That's a Sims.
Yeah,
That's
yep.
actually a Sims that
That's
my
that old Sims.
my friend and neighbor Kirk Wilson ripped off from me, and he thought he could get away with it by staining it and saying he made that board. But that's actually a Sims. I forget what the model was called.
Funny coincidence, the board I had was an RMI that's pretty much a straight rip off of that design almost. Yeah, you know, I was skating in the early 70s, and, you know, when it was cone nuts and loose bearings and all that, and I was never very good, but I had a lot of fun. And this cat, John DeMartin, had a Snurfer, and from seeing that, honestly, you could say I started snowboarding in 69 or 70, because I'd be standing on my flexible flyer, you know, like I was on a surfboard or something. It was, you know, at this golf course across the street, and then I finally got a Snurfer. I sold probably what amounts today to about $5,000 worth of vintage trains that were my brother's, who had moved out of the house. I got about $80 for them, you know, and I think Snurfer was about $60, and I probably spent the rest on beer.
And I guess if you would have kept those vintage trains and brought them to Colorado, you could have sold them to Gary Coleman.
I probably could have sold them to Gary Coleman. Yeah, I was working down at that train shop. Sidebar, if you ever get a chance, watch the movie Midgets and Mascots, okay? Gary Coleman does a nude scene in that thing. That guy's a tripod, I swear to God. Anyway, Midgets versus Mascots, highly recommended. Scottie Pippen, yeah, oh yeah, all sorts of people.
I see where we're going.
Yeah, it's not good, Bob. It's not good. Anyway, I got that Snurfer, and yeah, got out of college. I was a corporate headhunter in Chicago. It was a suit and tie. Actually, before I did that, for 6 months, I worked for my brother selling bras. So I worked out of the merchandise mart selling daywear, sleepwear, foundations. End of that summer, I could go up to a girl and say, hey, you're a 34B, aren't you? And it would either end up really good or really bad. But I was living around the corner from this shop, Windward Sports. It was a windsurfing shop. And they had winter sticks, they had barfoots, they had Sims, they had Burtons. And I would walk on my way home from the L to my house. I'd walk around the corner and I'd see these boards, and that cruiser actually, I didn't get the team edition, but that's my first real board, you know, after the Snurfer. But I kept on talking about it. My wife got me into skiing like about a year before, and I took to it like a duck to water, because I was a hockey player. Played hockey in college and high school and all that. Was still playing in Chicago. So I took to skiing, was like, oh, I can do this, all full on Texan, like, you know, just no style, just forcing my way down the mountain. We were honeymooning in Breckenridge, and she gave me a snowboard for a wedding gift.
Wow.
So that was pretty rad. That was pretty rad. That's one of the reasons why we're still together today. Absolutely.
So, well, Windward Sports, that's great that you brought them up, because I recall them being one of the very few shops to advertise, maybe in powder or even Thrasher possibly, and they carried snowboards. There were only a few retailers carrying snowboards in the country around that time.
And I lived around the corner from Lynn. Jackie and Lester, they were just awesome. I got my first and my second board from those guys, and then actually I got a race board from those guys too, as I started kind of getting more and more into it. I've got this old Mistral Inca 1700 that I had those same cant plates that are on that Tarquin there, and like flex bindings, and I was, you know, doing the Snow Shredders of America tour. But at the same time, I was kind of, my pop passed away in '89, and I remember being in my office, you know, 4th floor, 222 South Riverside Plaza in Chicago, and I'm like, man, my dad should have been in Florida, retired and playing golf. And, you know, what am I doing here? And I'm watching these kids skate a handrail across from my building, and it's just like, it just kind of, I'm like, I got to get out of here. And my wife was getting her master's in library science at the time, and she just started interviewing. She interviewed in Utah at Utah State or whatever was up in Logan, up at University of Wyoming. She's like, you would not like living in Laramie. And she was pretty much right. You know, I mean, nothing against Laramie, but yeah, I was in Chicago. It would have been real culture shock. So she got a job here with relocation, and I'm a VP of a headhunting firm. I mean, I have I have good income coming in, and I'm like, yeah, let's go, let's do this, let's change our lives. You know, had I stayed in Chicago, I'd probably be 250 pounds at this point with a big old beer belly. You know, love my friends back there. You know, the lifestyle out here is just more in tune with me, with mountain biking, which we need to do this summer.
Yes, I got to get on that Tuesday night program. I get the texts every Tuesday.
Yep.
That's an insider thing for all you viewers.
At the bike rack at New Train, you're all invited. 5:30 Tuesday nights. If you can hang with us and talk shit, drink beer, you're good. And honestly, everybody can hang with us because we're all old fuckers.
Yeah.
So.
Well, so talking about when you say you'd be 250 pounds, I mean, I just wrote down a note here to ask you, what's your favorite pie? If you're from Chicago, what's your favorite one?
Pumpkin. No, Giordano's. I know what you're talking about. I love
not
Giordano's.
Malnati's or
No,
Pequods.
I lived around the corner from Pizzeria Uno in Leonis. Leonis actually is really good. Giordano's.
I mean, that's
Thick Chicago pie, but Bob, I'm lactose intolerant at this point, so you know, hey.
That's right.
I don't like to subject people to that. I don't care.
Sorry to hear that, because I'm definitely not lactose intolerant, and it's my dream. If you know any investors, I would love to open a Chicago-style pizza place.
Oh, yeah.
Anywhere. It could be here. It could be in.
Honestly, I can eat all of that lactose blocker shit. I will absolutely eat your pizza.
Okay, I'll make you one.
Right on, Bob. So I got this Burton Cruiser, and I just started getting into it, and then I got a free 6, and then I got this Inca, and we move out here, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? I gotta find a job, and I am going into like interviews with headhunting firms, and I get the Trans World Buyer's Guide. I'm like, oh, these guys are in Boulder. So I call up Aggression Snowboards out of the blue, and they're like, well, yeah, you know, we have a factory here, and what are your qualifications? Well, I've been a salesperson the last couple of years, but I have an engineering degree in mechanical engineering, and you know, not that I was that good of an engineer, but like, oh shit, we need somebody to run our wood shop and shape cores. We just lost our guy.
Did you make this deck by any chance?
It was not, no, I did not make naked boards.
So it was just Matt Nipper, or did you talk
That
to
was
Al?
Big Al and Matt.
Yeah.
That was not me. That was not me. That was Big Al and Matt. And you know, honestly, I've never even ridden a naked board. I remember Brown Bob and Dowd and all that being on them.
Sure.
But
Brown Bob, I wonder what he's up to.
Bob Esparza? Yeah, that guy was rad. Anyway, I interviewed with these guys, and I wound up slinging cores for a couple of years at Aggression, and you know, met like you know, obviously Dave Dowd, Kevin Delaney, you know, Steve Link, who
actually inspired JJ,
Yeah.
because everyone thinks that it was Tom Sims doing all that stunt work in the James Bond movie,
and
but
it was
really
Link
was
doing
Steve
the
Link.
big shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and actually,
Tom making the pretty turns and Steve doing the gnarly shit.
not like I was any kind of competitor, but like, you know, Link actually gave me a farmer board.
Oh,
A
sweet.
186 is the very first board that I
Yeah,
did a
another
free on.
perfect board for guys our size.
Everything seemed so small after I spun that thing. Everything seemed so easy to spin. Yeah, and that board actually, it's I loaned it to Trent Cook and Curto and the guys that put together the snowboard section in the museum, and it's up there. But you know, Link gave me a 186. It was like, holy shit. But I moved out there and I started riding that Tarquin 170. That was my board with those cants on it and all that. And so that was my first Aggression. Well, actually, that was my second Aggression board because I blew up the first one. But I brought that one down, and I brought this guy down, kind of just to kind of show you a little difference. Like, I was in this wood shop, never really done. Yeah, it was just, you know, hey, just don't cut off your thumb, all right? Tarquin would take that board at 160 or the 150, whatever he was riding. He'd take a pie tin and trace it on that nose to get this shape after he saw Fred Yoder, Gilligan, cut down his board. So I would trim those boards for Tarquin every once in a while until we came out with the shotgun board here. It was a blast, man. I just met all sorts of good people. I learned so much about snowboard construction. I learned about what not to do. We had all those, the metal plates in there, and
Well, and Matt is a pretty serious engineer himself, huh?
Absolutely.
He's pretty on top of things.
he absolutely is. He's working over by me. I actually have connected with him at New Terrain. His place is right over by there, and they work on these water filtration systems now. So he got into doing materials design for the golf industry for a while. I think he was tied up with Silence for a while, then material consulting for golf, and now he's working on these water treatment systems. So it's been good to reconnect with him. I connected with him about about 8 months ago. We went on an e-foil mission
Cool.
Matt got scalped on, unfortunately. You got to watch that foil when you dive off the board underwater.
Yeah, so Matt Nipper is who we're talking about, for those of you who don't know the history of aggression snowboards.
Really, the brains designing behind aggression. He had the best mullet in the business too, man. He had the best mullet in the business.
Definitely a good-looking guy, Matt Nipper.
So Matt, those guys hired me. I worked at Agro for a while. My first time riding out here was riding Loveland, like October 31st. Here's a guy fresh out from Chicago. I just moved out in August. October 31st, I'm snowboarding. In Chicago, you're like, you're rooting on the Bears and drinking beer and stuff. Like, you're not even thinking about this. I go up and I'm with Dowd and Dave Partridge, who later on was designing for Apocalypse and Rev and all sorts of stuff. Came up with the slider system, I think Partridge did. And watching that guy carve, oh my God, he just could lay down a rail.
Isn't he like
And
New
I'm
Zealander or
skidding my
something?
turns around on my free six because I was too new to have an aggression yet, but it's having a blast. And it just kind of rolled out from there.
Awesome. So that was then, and so you were with Aggression. What year did you start with being a rep? I guess because that's really what you transitioned into, right?
I knew, like, when I went into the factory, it's like you can talk to people. You just need to get to meet people and know and kind of find out what really the scene is more than anything. And it was I want to say like 93, 94. I just started calling companies and, hey, I want to be a rep. This is my history in sales. I was a headhunter. I've been building boards last couple of years, but and I got hired by Billiard Stomp Pads, the 8-ball Stomp Pads, the Hat Matters with the Cat in the Hat hats, and Barfoot hired me, and so I was road tripping with Chuck. That was, honestly, I might as well have been road tripping with Dimitri or Jake or Tom. I was road tripping with Chuck was just like, that was honestly the pinnacle of my time at Barfoot.
Yeah.
But I got a job repping for Barfoot. I didn't realize at the time, but Barfoot was built in the same factory as Lamar, Taylor Dykema. And Chuck went in the factory one time and it's all Lamar boards and his boards aren't even built yet and all. It's like, Barfoot was just kind of, the fellow that was his financier, Dorsey Trude, who ran Atlantic Skates.
Oh, I remember Dorsey. I sat next to him at a couple of blackjack tables during the SIA show.
I'm sure, was he betting dollars or pennies?
Oh,
Because that guy would throw nickels around like they were fucking manhole covers, okay? I mean, he's just not investing in Barfoot at all, not really, Greg Navander, the sales manager, I loved Greg. He was a great guy, hired me, and, got me out on the road with Robbie Olheiser and Chuck, and, but I could see that Barfoot was unfortunately just losing any steam in the industry. The marketing, I mean, they had great riders, John Boyer, Devin Walsh, Schwarty, that was my first barfoot board, that Schwarty, I don't know if it's a 70 or 72 or whatever. But I love working for Chuck, but I was also, at the same time, collecting unemployment, because I was all 1099. I was working at the boardroom in Lakewood under the table, setting up rentals on Fridays and Saturdays. I was tuning skis and snowboards in my basement and trying to rep all at the same time, just to try to put money on the table.
Sure.
You know, my wife had a steady job, but I was just kind of the one struggling.
As is normal in the snowboard industry, I think.
Yeah, you want to make $1 million, start with 2. But yeah, I started repping, and then I approached Never Summer because I was working at the boardroom, and I saw how these boards were flying off the shelf, and they were like, you could get them inserted or T-nut. All right, they didn't have like, yeah, you had an option. You could pay less to get it just T-nut only. And of course, that's the time when Tech 9 was popping too, with the bone and all the baseless bindings were really happening. And I went up to Tracy and like, hey, I want to work for you. And it took me about 8 or 9 months, persistence with tact to kind of, and I was repping Barfoot, Black Spoon Clothing. Yeah, speed, weed, and alcohol, man. That was honestly the most fun snowboard company I probably ever worked for. Just Josh Joseph had a great sense of humor. I was repping Never Summer and Barfoot at the same time. And I'm like, everybody wants Never Summer. Nobody wants Barfoot. Barfoot guys that I can't open up are saying, I'm gonna drop Barfoot if you don't sell me Never Summer. And I'm like, I have to let Chuck do his own thing. And I went, and it sucked. It really, honestly, I called him and talked to him for a while. I got off the phone just seriously crying because I have so much respect for that guy.
He is one of my really close friends. I brought him to Europe for his first trip to Europe a number of years ago.
No kidding.
Like 5-6 years ago. And I mean, we're really tight friends, but when it comes to the business side of snowboarding, it's just really, it's one of the worst things for me to reflect on is thinking about Barfoot, because Chuck is the most positive, best guy in the industry, and he's always had a difficult business time, and it's so sad to see because he's just the best guy ever.
Absolutely. It was I got to take laps with him a couple of years ago at Copper when he was out for SIA, and it was really good hanging with him. And me and Craig Piedamonte from Cutting Edge in Connecticut, which was another company that I used to see ads for in the mags. I was like, I've known these guys. Yeah, he was one of our good. And yeah, we all got to go out and take laps with Chuck, and that was just it was about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was a blast.
So with Never Summer, it wasn't necessarily a brand that you had to build. Sounds like it was repping here in Colorado. Never Summer was probably pretty good.
Well, we had some stalwarts. We had obviously BC Surf and Sport, and there were shops in every town, Mountain Wave and Breckenridge, and but I did a lot of pioneering of that brand too, especially in Utah. We had Milo, but it wasn't the Milo wasn't backing it up as hard as they could have. Sure. There wasn't volume, but I opened up a lot of new shops for it, and I would look at it geographically. I'm like, all right, we got a shop in Fort Collins. I don't need somebody there, but I need somebody in Loveland. I need somebody in Greeley. I need somebody, we have one shop in Boulder. That town can do 2 shops easy. Sure. So I got a lot of our rental accounts actually over the years too. I mean, I really pushed it up, and at the same time, Black Spoon kind of dropped off. It was bought by another guy. He was a great guy, Jim Curzon, but I got on with 686, and 686 is just, their clothing is fantastic. I wish you designed for me.
I respect those guys.
Yeah, Mike West and John O, they're good friends to this day, and the crew that I worked with there is just, I'm still very tight with a lot of the reps and guys that I worked with there. So I had a good little base there. I started getting a couple of people working for me and helping out at demos. We just had an amazing crew. Geez, Micah Cook and Joey Herman have been with me for a long time, but over that time period. But we had a good little program. Neff 686, Never Summer, and I actually built Never Summer up quite a bit in this territory. And then 2008, I decided that my son was going into high school, and I wanted to. I was spending so much time on the road. I was doing Osiris shoes in the heat of the D3, which is the worst skate shoe ever. But bought me a hot tub because all the kids had to have it.
So you definitely know Tony McNothing.
Throwing up the goat all the time, man. Yeah, Tony Mag. I take it there's a history there, Bob.
I just never liked the guy too much.
I had
Evol, was he really a snowboarder?
I don't think I ever saw him on snow.
Yeah, exactly. But he got into
snowboarding. Hey,
Tony McNothing.
Tarquin was riding for him though, man. If he paid Tarquin, he's okay by me. Because TR was good peeps, man. Him and his brother Paul and sister Tatiana. Those guys were awesome.
And I just had to
every time I came up to the Summit County and I'm a 31, 32-year-old guy. They're like, come on, ride with us, man. They were super chill, despite the gangster reputation
He
and
was the
all
coolest
that.
kid in school, and he was still like so nice,
that's a really interesting thing, because I remember the whole thing with this guy. People in Summit County are riding around with guns. And I had such a narrow-minded attitude at that time. I thought, what a bunch of dicks! Like, what are they doing? A bunch of gangsters up on the mountain? So lame.
It coming from Chicago, I kind of harshed on a little bit. I'm like, dude, don't hang out with gang members, man. I mean, that seriously, don't. It's just not fucking cool, And he's like, we have some friends that are like, dude, it does you no fucking good whatsoever. I'm sorry, I'm a potty mouth. Can I say these words?
We can say whatever the fuck we want.
Okay, Bob.
No problem.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about. I'm just so impressed with you have this volume of history talking about all these brands that in an era where now they're well-known brands, but they weren't always well-known brands. And it's great, again, why I wanted to have you on the show, because you've been behind the scenes and you're a humble guy. It's not like you're out there trying to get all kinds of likes and social media action from people. You're just a guy that is super into snowboarding and made a great life out of it.
Hey, I go for that dopamine fire. I do have an Instagram account. You might occasionally see people like, falling from lifts on it or something.
I saw that the other day.
I had no idea that was going to happen.
So tell me though a little bit more about how Never Summer has evolved from this kind of Colorado small hometown company that you pioneered definitely and has now grown into not only just a respectable brand but also manufacturing for other people too.
Well, it's been a huge team effort from. We have great people involved in the brand. We do, and we kind of kept it really low key at first. We were trying to put more money into the actual boards than into hype and promotion and stuff. We wanted to build the most solid boards out there and let the reputation and keeping the guys in the shops, the riders in the shops stoked on us. And things have evolved over the last couple of years, but I came in-house in 2008 because I wanted to spend more time. My son was going into high school. I wanted to spend more time with him. I wanted to see, he was into playing football. He skied and snowboarded, but he wasn't into that. And I'm like, and I'm a firm believer, let kids find their path and support them when they find their path. They find their passion. If you played football, don't force your kid to play football. If you snowboard, your kid isn't really into snowboarding, but the kid's into hockey or whatever. Let them play hockey.
Well, it's funny. My daughter made this cup for me, this mug, and when she was about 7, she said, "I want to be a pro snowboarder and a marine biologist." And every weekend, we would say, "Okay, girls, let's go snowboarding." And they would say, no, we just want to sit on the computer or whatever. And I'd say, "Well, how are you going to be a pro snowboarder if you don't go snowboarding?" But I never pushed it. I never thought, "Oh, you want to be a pro snowboarder, I'm going to make you do it." We made them go one day on Sundays. I gave them an option. I said, "All your friends go to church, we go to snowboarding. What do you want to do? You go to church with them or snowboard with us?" And it was a big fight, but that was more of a family bonding experience as opposed to, "I want you to be a professional at this." And so I really appreciate what you're saying too.
Yeah, my kid found football. That now he's found rock climbing, and he's super into it. He's certified to lead climb this year. He just got into it 2 years ago, and it's like he's 27 now. He's 2 classes away from finishing his master's at DU in data science. But I have a relationship with him that I love my dad dearly, but my dad and I didn't have the same kind of honest, direct relationship, and I just wanted to be there and foster that relationship. And if he's into football, I wanted to root for him. If he was bummed out after a game, I wanted to be there if he wanted to talk to me or not. I think that too many parents push their kids to do things they don't want to do.
Well, and it's an interesting conversation in the sense that I always go back to the foundation of where we came from in snowboarding is this outcast. And I'm not sure what your personal story is in that regard, but usually people find snowboarding or skateboarding because they didn't fit in or they didn't make the team or whatever it was. So it's this different mentality, and if we bring that individual spirit and mentality to our children, they're gonna find their own path and they're gonna succeed. And what's fascinating to me is the rest of the world has kind of embraced that concept as snowboarding and skateboarding became more mainstream. But I also see how the other side of it is now infiltrating into snowboarding, where we got all these weirdo sideline parents that are trying to get their kids to be in the.
You're going to be the next Shaun White or whatever.
I was just reading an article this morning about Chloe Kim and her boyfriend, and I mean it's nothing against them at all because it's totally cute and cool that she's got a boyfriend and all that, but it's like this mainstream media focusing on snowboarding in this mainstream kind of way, which I'm somewhat indifferent about it, but on the other hand, I'm like, yeah, we're kind of losing that individual flavor.
No, and that's the beauty of sports like skating, rock climbing, snowboarding, mountain biking. Hey, you can compete against other people, but honestly, aren't we all just competing with ourselves, just trying to get one? I want to get that grab. I want to put that extra 180. I want to kickflip down. I got 3 stairs. Now I'm going to go for 5 stairs, or whatever. Just pushing your own limits, your own boundaries. For me, it's mountain biking now. Can I get down this rock garden? Oh shit, I didn't make it, but maybe that path, and I'm going to hike my bike back up it.
I've seen you do it.
I have done. I finally got on North Table last night. It's my 3rd ride of the year, and I didn't clear the waterfall, but I'm like, I cleared it the 2nd time.
But hey, let's not really bullshit each other here because you
I cleared
really
the
are
waterfall.
competitive. You are competitive.
I am competitive.
I remember the only thing you wanted to do was beat me in this event here.
Oh
You
yeah.
remember
I
that?
brought something in for you to gloat
you
about.
didn't beat me. You got second.
I'll always be number 2 to you, Bob, won't I?
And
okay?
yeah. In
All
fact,
right.
that's my personal
I don't know.
competitive thing. Is
Do you have
is-
one of these?
I do actually.
Yeah. Damn it.
And I put the Neverland. Thank you for sponsoring the Neverland.
Oh, hell yeah. Yep, I saw the
That's
Neverland
great, but
shirt
I was
up there.
really bummed out because Tim Green, who will be
Yeah.
reviewing stuff for us on the show, but Tim Green texted me last night and said, "Hey, are you doing this?" And he sent me the link to the Neverland event. And my first question back to him was, "Do they allow skiers?"
Oh, well, no.
No,
Snowboards
that's
only.
why I brought my skis here, because I realized that they don't allow skiers. Why the hell can't I ski in it?
Why wouldn't you snowboard?
Because I'm a better skier than a snowboarder.
I am so sorry to hear that, Bob. I honestly am.
It's all.
If you're better,
it's a
how
knee
come you're
thing.
not on the Free Ride World Tour then,
It's
man?
a
'Cause
knee
you
thing.
were a pretty damn good snowboarder.
It's a knee thing. My knees are ruined.
Oh, my knees. But now, when I skied, I used to have freaking braces on both of my knees, and this is in my late 20s. Snowboarding.
I can snowboard fine in powder, but as soon as it gets chopped up or it's hard conditions, my knees hurt quite a bit. So I ski
get
a
it.
lot.
I get it.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, well, I may see you at that Neverland if there's still spots open. But if there aren't, can you get me in?
Probably not, Bob.
All right. Well, so I better check the sign-up sheet today and see if I can get in. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is your love of music. And when
I
I
do love
was in high school, there were a group of people. I was a sophomore in high school, and all my friends, some of them were football jocks, but at North Tahoe High School, most people were pretty cool, and everybody partied together, except for the bullies out there. You guys remember who you are.
Hey, fuck you guys.
Yeah, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
And they all came asking for snowboards when they.
Of course
figured
they
out I
did.
was in the industry. But we went to a lot of Grateful Dead shows. I went to my first Dead show was New Year's Eve, 1980-81. And I went to 3 New Year's shows, and look at this.
Wow.
I figured I'd bring this for you just to check
Holy
out.
shit.
That's what they were giving
Oh.
out, because
Oh my gosh.
you're tripping on LSD at the New Year's show, and
That's pretty
at
sick.
the end of the show at 3 in the morning or whatever, because they played all night. Those hippies, they go for stuff all day.
Yeah,
all night.
3.5
But
hours.
They served orange juice to everybody, like free orange juice for 6,000 people.
Was it
in the
live or
auditorium.
dead orange juice?
It was dead orange juice.
Okay,
I
okay.
guess. But anyway, I'll take a picture of this and we'll show it on the show.
That's
It's
pretty
It's
awesome.
a nice little Grateful Dead souvenir. So,
yeah.
how'd you get into the Dead?
Just listening to music. Music has always just been a driver, man.
I'll sell you the zip stick over there.
I'm good on that, honestly. If you
Steal
have the
your
second
face,
half
bro.
of it.
Show us your belt. Doesn't it match?
Oh yeah. You got that?
Yeah.
All right. Yep.
Oh man, we got some names.
Hold on to it.
That was Jerry.
So,
So
what's next for Never Summer?
Steal your shred. We've been working with the whole rocker camber technology, rocker in the middle, camber out towards tip and tail.
Not just straight camber.
Not just, we have a
Is
straight,
that board there's straight camber.
we have
isn't it?
one straight camber board. Yeah, that is
That
the
Kidwell.
first, well, that Kidwell, that was a Sims that we built. That board over there, the one with the cloth top sheet, the Tech 9 sticker on, that's my first Never Summer. That's camber. That's the one that said, oh my God, I'm repping for this company. What do I tell Barfoot when I launched off a cat track on Winter Barf? But Never Summer has come in with a whole nother design that in the rocker camber family, where we have cambered section tip, cambered section tail, but one in the middle. And it is like, I just took my old free ride board, put it in the back of the stack, and that's, that Proto FRS is fantastic. So we actually have a section of camber in the middle, gives you additional power, straight tracking, but the board's still edge to edge. You have a very good ease of transition toe side to heel side, but the power on that thing's incredible.
Do you,
We've been obviously building boards for Chad and JB and Academy. We're going into this season right now. Last year was a cluster with material supply issues. We lost probably 25 days alone just to material supply. Like, hey, yeah, the epoxies, it's down in, you know, a train depot now in Santa Fe. It's on its way, but it might not be here for 3 or 4 days. So we're getting on top of our material supplies, being very aggressive, and you know, we're stocked right now with our raw materials.
How do you prioritize when a material shortage? Do you prioritize by brand, like you guys are number one priority and everybody else is behind, or is it a mix?
We build several different things at once. We have, we typically have 9 tables building. With pandemic, we had to go down to 5 tables. And then we were able to, when we were able to get more staff back in, expand back up to 7. But we went into last year with only 5 tables building, which is, you know, it's 60% of our capacity at best. So we've gotten very aggressive in terms of raw material production, and we're building a shit ton more boards right now. We're way ahead of the game. We are concerned about material supply issues, so we're, again, you know, buying way down the line and spending more money now in order to ensure that we can build through the season. Never Summer is a priority to build there. We also build skis for Icelandic, and they have there are 2 ski tables that'll either be building Icelandic, or we make skis for this company out of New Mexico called Pointed. We make Harvest. We make a couple of different company skis.
It's so impressive to me that I mean, I did the tour a couple of years ago with my good friend Danny Kleinbuck from Germany.
Yep.
And the tour, I'd say you guys are great with letting people just see what you do, and I was blown away by just the precision and how organized everything is in there.
You know, we do a pretty good job of keeping materials moving through that factory. We do build our OEM, the way we have it set up this year, all of our OEM partners that we build for, if they did 1,000 pairs last year, they're getting 800 this year. We told them they could only do 80% of what their PO was. We want to make sure that we build Never Summers and deliver to our Never Summer customers first. So
It's great too, because that also, I mean, it's almost, you almost thank the pandemic for any oversupply issues, right? There's probably not much oversupply out there.
no, it's been, the only oversupply right now is after this year is in split boards. Because everybody bought a split board when the lift shut down in 2020, you know, everybody got one, and then the next year, you know, they weren't sure about resorts, so people bought them, they sold well, and you could see it kind of tapered off this year. It's because people all got them, and split boards last for how long, you know? I mean, people would get out and realize, oh wow, this is a lot of work, you know? First off, people that had never split boarded before, oh shoot, I should take an AVI course. Whoa, that's kind of, you know, isn't this dangerous? You know, after they get their split board. It was so funny seeing the scenes of people, you know, parking on Loveland Pass and going hiking Loveland after everything, you know, the lift shut down. It's like, that's a clusterfuck. There's so much hang fire. I don't want to go anywhere near that stuff.
Well, it's funny that you bring up the split board thing, just because I made my own years ago, and then I got one from Winterstick last year, and I've used it one time, but not because I'm not into it, because I have no problem with the hiking and the the up is great. I'm into exercise and sweating and breathing hard, so that's fine. And Chad Otterstrom actually was so cool. He took me to a spot and
oh, you went to
showed me
Chad's
around.
Fat Tavern?
No. He wasn't sure about my ability, so we just went on the other side of the tunnel. But Chad, I mean, hopefully you still feel that way. He was like, man, if I realized that you were this, you know, on top of it, I would have taken me somewhere else. But I am totally into split boarding in the future. I know it's just a different mentality, because you have to do the switch out and with the skins and put the board back together and all that stuff, which they've made it a lot easier with the technology.
Sure.
But for the everyday snowboarder, it's definitely a different experience than just getting on a lift.
It's labor intensive compared to the reward they're getting off the lift.
Right.
And yeah, I went out like 6 times last year. I've only been twice this year. I may actually do a little uphill at Loveland tomorrow morning if I get up early enough. And that's, you know, to me, that's, you know, that's just an easy power run you get on before people get on the lift. But Berthoud's calling me again.
I would like to do it again. This year wasn't the greatest powder year.
No. Well, Bob Anderson would love to go with you too.
Yes.
And, you know, he and I went on Berthoud Pass earlier this year.
But
Maybe
he's
we
a
can get
skier,
it.
isn't he?
I don't care. He can't compete in Neverland, all right? But I'll go split with him.
Maybe he and I should show up and cause
Maybe
a ruckus.
you two should go together, and I could film it for you.
What if I just show up and drop in on the course? Will I get arrested?
I don't think so.
All
It's
right.
Loveland, dude. No, yeah, they're not going to arrest you. You'll get a harsh talking to, and maybe you're not welcome, you know,
Okay.
kind of a thing. And
That's cool.
you know, but Bob, you do you, man. I'll cheer you on no matter what. But your
Well,
time isn't going to count.
You know, I'll consider it, but on the other hand, I'll most likely snowboard just so I can keep beating you.
Oh, okay, cool. I think you should. You know, Bob, how old are you right now?
I am 57.
Okay.
58 next month.
All right, man.
All right.
I got about 5 years on you.
I know.
But I'll still
But
take
you look
you.
great. You look
That's what
great.
that's what you tell people before they're about to, you know. Yeah, he looked good though, you know.
Yeah, you look fantastic. And it's great to mountain bike with you. It's great to snowboard with you. And,
Hell yeah.
And I really do appreciate you coming on to the show. And for those of you who aren't into the industry or don't understand the production side and the distribution and sales side, I think you just really summed up a lot of this stuff and dropped some really incredible information for people.
Well, I just have fun talking with you, brother. You know,
Yeah.
that's it. And yeah, if anybody wants to see how we build boards, Neversummer, info@neversummer.com, or go on our website, www.neversummer.com, and set up a tour. And the chairman, Vince, who I worked for at the boardroom, does a lot of the tours. And we've got a lot of good guys there that can kind of show you exactly how we make the donuts.
Yeah, Vince is a great guy. He and I both had shops at the same time, and he was one of the greatest so-called competitors for me because he was way across town, and we always got along. And he's an incredible snowboarder too.
He's a damn good snowboarder.
Way better than I ever was, that's for sure.
Well, I don't know about that, Bob. You do have that #1 there, and
Well,
duct tape.
Yeah, but you know, it's like these are just minor things, and this world championship, 3rd place in the pipe. I mean, every chance I get to spout off about that stuff, I will.
You're going for the likes then.
There's
aren't you?
always got to be a winner, right? So, and JJ, again, I really appreciate your time too. And is there any website or hashtag or any Instagram thing that we should be promoting on the show for you?
Well, thanks. It's Call Your Brands on Instagram. I mean, that's just where I kind of hang out. And like I said,
Awesome.
it's the stuff I care about. So.
Great. Well, you guys are both welcome back anytime, and maybe we can come up with some topic that we can shoot the shit about. And I really appreciate it. The interviews were fantastic. You're fantastic people. And
I just want to know, where's the audience, man? I don't see him. I hear all this
Hey,
clapping
hey,
and
hey.
laughing.
we bring them in when you guys are gone, and then we do like overlay the sound of them. But they're real people. It's a real audience.
I have no doubt I've heard it,
So
man.
you see the chairs over there. At least that one over there. All right, guys. Well, I know you've got an engagement to get to, and JJ, it's great. Thanks for bringing the Porsche again, and thanks for bringing the aggression boards and Never Summer, and it's just fantastic.
Hey, my pleasure, Bob. Good to be here, man.
We'll be
Pleasure.
right
Good to
back
meet you too,
with
bud.
something else.
Hell yeah.